Hey guys, Squirrely here. Today I wanted to give you guys a video on Smite Champion. I've been doing some PoBing and actually some practicing with leveling it as well, and doing some different methods of leveling and all that too, but I just wanted to give you guys an overview of the PoB, which I'll put in the description of course, as well as I'll show some bit of footage of leveling, because I tried a couple different leveling methods and I actually think Smite is super competitive, so you can definitely just level pretty much right from the beginning as level 1 with Smite. I recommend some little optimizations if you want to go a little faster, but it's actually not bad at all. But let me just go over the PoB real quick. So this is the end game setup of the build, and I tried pretty hard to make sure that items are realistic, right? So obviously Paradoxica is insane as a weapon, and it's somewhat expensive probably this league, maybe 5-10 divines. I don't know, it's hard to say exactly, but you know, if you buy it unveiled, then you veil it yourself, you might be able to get it for cheaper. So, you know, obviously Paradoxica is super good anyways. And then we're going to be using a Shaper Shield with recovers life on block, and nothing insane for the affixes. But, and you don't need all these affixes, you really just need to recover life on block is the biggest thing. You know, and the other gear, again, I try to like fit the resistances in a realistic way. And it's not easy, I'll be honest. Like the resistances are pretty tough to get all the way capped. We're at about 78% all res plus 77 chaos. And we're even still using a Lyra just to make it easier to cap res. Obviously with better gear, you can just drop a Lyra and get an extra point. But you know, I figured this is kind of my week 1 goal, I would say, to get this gear. Maybe week 2 if I'm struggling a little bit for currency. But I think I can probably get most of this stuff week 1. I don't think it's there's no mirror tier shit. You know, it's the hardest thing to craft is probably the ring. This ring's pretty nuts, but you don't need the lightning damage on attack, right? So, but we'll see. I think maybe crafting might be easier this league anyways with the changes that they're adding. Some of that end game, like juicing your items to have it higher tiers and all that. Like it might actually be pretty easy to craft really good gear. Plus there's recombinators in the game still, so that always helps. And then we're getting ailment immunity from ancestral vision, plus on the boots we can get bunch of ailment immunity from there. We get some brittle ground on the boots, which just gives us an insane amount of crit. And this has no like PoB shenanigans with you know, mercs giving us a bunch of damage and all that. And we're hitting 50 mil. With the merc, we can get a ton of damage. But keep in mind as well with mercs that they're going to increase the enemy's life pool by probably around 50%. So it's not just free damage. So I guess keep that in mind. It might not be worth using sometimes, but yeah, you can get some pretty insane stuff from the Merc. I have in the notes, I have a pretty extensive notes section for leveling, as well as some tips on campaign just in general, and then how to transition to the early end games, you know, your Merc setup, a bit of crafting tips. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. If you guys want to follow the build, it should help a lot. And then, yeah, some insane stuff with the Merc. You can get like, obviously Perkle's Toe is always insane, but low key, there's some insane, so like Crown of the Tyrant is insane. It's obviously going to be expensive, but holy crap, it's a ton of damage. Legacy of Fury is extremely good and not super expensive for boots. You can equip on them, gives us Scorch. And then Calum's Binding is kind of cool, I found. You get like some pretty good physical damage reduction from that. Doriani's in the very end game. Put your Doriani's on the Merc, give him a bunch of negative lightning res. And yeah, your lightning damage is going to do infinity. So pretty cool. You know, but obviously this is end game, like end of week 1 type stuff, maybe a little later. I'm going to have loadouts for everything, right? So early end game, you know, you're still using Paradoxica, but the gear is not nearly as insane, and you're not using any like crazy jewels, you know, just simple stuff, and you're still hitting 15 mil, so pretty good. And this is stuff we can get like day 2, day 3, if you're progressing pretty quick. And then mid game is still respectable DPS, you know, 5 mil. With Frost Breath and the Taming, that's it. That's the only uniques. And, you know, obviously we're using Tinctures and a Silver Flask. Tinctures are super strong, right? You're going to want to have one ASAP. And they don't last forever, so it's not super realistic to expect you to have this throughout the entire fight. So obviously, you know, without it, we are losing a fair bit of deeps. But we actually have decent mana pool, and the mana cost per second isn't that bad. And we're actually using Poacher's Mark in this setup, which gives us a ton of mana on hit. So I actually think it won't be as bad as it seems to sustain mana and sustain tinctures on bosses. I think it'll be long enough to pretty much take any boss out. And then We look at, skills are nothing crazy. One big thing to note when we're playing champion, which is obviously the class I'm choosing to play here, Ascendancy, I mean, you have to use, where am I? Okay. We have to use Corrupting Fever plus Life Tap together in order to put us into low life. And you have to do that every 20-ish seconds. You can obviously wait a little bit longer than that, but that's probably the most annoying part about playing champion, is to really get the most out of this Ascendancy, you have to hit yourself for half your life. And you have to do that every 20 seconds or longer. If you do it before then, it doesn't refresh the duration of adrenaline. So you're just hitting yourself for no reason, basically. So a bit of a pain in the ass, I'll be honest, but it's worth doing. And it's an instant skill, so it's not like, it's not like you're taking time to cast it like a During Cry or something crazy. And then, yeah, nothing crazy for gems. Just regular level 20 gems. I'll put Hypothermia in here just because it's easier to color a chest piece that is armor and evasion if you have a green gem, and Hypothermia is our best green gem that we can add. Just to, again, this is an early mid-game, just getting into maps, pretty much kind of PoB, or setup, I should say. So figured we'd do that. But ideally, you have added lightning damage, or even Ruthless is really good, right? So again, another red socket if you can, or a blue socket, but makes it expensive. So, you could also, of course, just not get a evasion armor base and just get like an armor ES base. And especially if it's corrupted 6 links are super cheap usually. You can just get, 4 red, 2 blue, and just not worry about getting evasion and all that, because it doesn't matter that much on the chest piece. You can pretty much use whatever chest piece. Like I have this spell suppress craft. You don't even need it. Like we're over capped on spell suppression, and our gear doesn't have that much spell suppression on it. And you can also even get some more from the tree just by getting a couple points in the quick step to help you cap it. It's another 13%. So, there's a lot of options, and we don't need all of the points that we've put in here. Like we can easily just take this out and get a bunch of points back, right? And we're losing a little bit of damage, sure, but it's not that big a deal. It's like 300k, right? Who cares? So there's a lot of things you can do on the tree that, like, none of the points are optional, or some of the points are mandatory in my opinion, but most of them are optional. Also, I forgot to mention, we are max block. So, well, at least max block in the sense of versatile combatants. So we have 65 block and spell block, which is really, really nice for mapping and just survivability as a melee. And we have pretty respectable max hits. It's not insane, but 15k and 34k. And we're not even, like, this is not with Molten Shell checked, right? So obviously if you check off Molten Shell, you're going to have big damage reduction, but it's only up 50% of the time. So I don't think it's reasonable to keep that checked. But it definitely will be on a decent amount, so that will increase our tankiness quite a bit. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good build. I think the biggest thing that it has going for it is the fact that we give an aura to our Merc, and we're giving like really impactful auras to our Merc, right? So we're giving stuff like anger and wrath, plus the Smite aura, of course, is insane. Plus, of course, we have Veil Smite, which I don't even have checked off, right? But that's a bunch of damage too that we can add. We can also, if you want to use a transfigured Smite version of the gem, which is Smite of Holy something, Divine Judgment. It's slightly better mechanically in terms of clear. And if you use Veil Wrath on bosses, you get or Veil Smite, you get the Smite aura, even on that transfigured gem. So it's a good way of increasing your clear speed. I'll have to test it. I don't know how worth it is to use, but could be really good. Another good thing you can maybe do is get a Merc that uses Smite, and that way he can give you the Smite aura, and you can just use a Transfigured Gem instead. That might be a really good tech. We'll see. The Mercs are very much up in the air, right? So we don't really know what they can do. Also, the Merc can have an aura, right? At least they should be able to have an aura. So, getting something like Anger or Wrath on the Merc, or you can get Determination for more tankiness, or even Grace. And yeah, there's some really good options from the Merc angle, so pretty exciting stuff. And obviously Champ gives Fortitude now to, just for 2 points, your nearby allies also have Fortitude, so 24, which is really good for the Merc, because the Merc might be a little squishy, and that might help him survive, so that's really cool. And then I have leveling trees as well, and they're very detailed. They have every single link that you'll have. Yeah, I tested the leveling. I can put some footage a little bit here. but it was going well. You know, at the very start, it's a little slow, but I think there's some nice optimization I could do that I didn't do. For example, using Holy Flame Totem and, you know, muling that from your Templar, because you have to play Templar anyways to get Smite, to mule it over. So, you know, you just get Holy Flame Totem as well, and then you're smiting, plus using Holy Flame Totem, plus using added fire damage on that. You know, plus Smite with Ancestral Call is actually pretty solid, because then it lets it double hit. And I think it can be pretty quick, you know, and put Chance to Bleed on your shield charge, and you'll be killing things while shield charging through the maps or through the areas. And you can actually go pretty dang fast. Like I had, not like the craziest times, but I had 31-minute Act 1, 27-minute Act 2, 27-minute or so Act 3, and it's just going to keep going faster, right? As soon as you get Adrenaline, which is the first node we take, you start to get insanely fast, because you get, I mean, Adrenaline is disgusting, right? 25% of cast speed, or attack speed, movement speed, 100% increased damage, and even physical damage reduction, you know, and you just gotta, again, use Corrupting Fever early on, so that you can proc it, and yeah, you just start zooming, right? And then we're also getting Onslaught from the tree, and it's also, what's nice is it's completely weapon agnostic, meaning that, you know, you can just use whatever weapon you find. So if you get a good rare mace, you can use that. You get a good rare axe, you get a good rare sword, right, with flat damage or attack speed or all of the above, then just use it. So it's super nice to be able to level like that. Ideally, though, axes are probably the best, because then you can get Hatchet Master for more onslaught chance and get the rage on hit. So axes usually are just the best, honestly. But again, it doesn't matter. Just play whatever you hit, and you'll be cruising. So yeah, I was pretty impressed with Smite. Another thing you can do, which I did test a little bit, was you can level with Poison Concoction into Explosive Concoction. And Explosive Concoction is disgustingly OP. Like, you don't need anything, and you'll be doing like 400k damage in campaign. Like, it's disgusting how much damage it does. And it's very smooth because you don't need a weapon or anything. Just the problem with doing that is when you transition, because you have to have Smite leveling up in your offhand. You have to have all of its links leveling up in an offhands, right, in order to swap into it with maps. So it's kind of clunky that way. If you do it, but you can, if you prefer using Explosive Concoction, you can, and you can even just do Explosive Concoction and just do all the Watchstones and stuff like that, and you don't even need to play Smite at all until the very end game. If you want to just transition to it way later, yeah, you can just use Explosive Concoction, because that skill's busted. But I like leveling as the same build throughout the whole game. I think it's really cool. It's got like a good progression sense to it, where it's like a 0 to hero feel. And if you play with another skill the entire time, it doesn't really give you that feel anymore. Kind of feels almost cheesy in a way, but it's up to you. I mean, definitely there's nothing wrong with it, and it's extremely good skill. So if you just want to prioritize efficiency, Explosive Concoction is the way to go. But it's a very similar tree as well. You go down here, you go up here. Yeah, it's really good. But for now, we just got the Smite leveling, because I think it's very competitive. You can get at least 5-6 hours of an act, you know, Act 1 to 10, without too much trouble, I would say. So, yeah, I think it's worth doing. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's everything I can think of for the builds. Let me see if I'm missing anything here. Oh yeah, one thing to note. So I'm not taking Disciple of the Unyielding. And honestly, you might have to take that. But the reason why I'm not taking it right now is I'm hoping that our Merc can just use Enduring Cry for us and give us endurance charges that way. But if we don't get an Enduring Cry Merc, then you're just going to want to grab this. So you can just take points out of this, for example. And it's very similar in the level. You can even, I mean, this is nice for tankiness, but you can take that out. I don't know, there's a lot of choices. If you have a lot of attributes, you don't need to run these nodes, right? So yeah, we're pretty flexible on points for the most part. And you definitely want endurance charges while mapping. You don't want to have to use Enduring Cry yourself. That's really clunky, so keep that in mind. Oh yeah, I didn't explain this too much, but the mid-game setup is using non-crit. It's going precise technique. And the reason why we do that is just because crit is hard to scale without good gear, typically, because you need crit multi and all that. So, you know, going precise technique, which we're going to be doing while leveling anyways, is just really, really nice, because accuracy is easy to cap. Just use precision linked with arrogance. can get like 1 accuracy wheel with plus 500 accuracy, and you are going to be more accuracy than life for the most part. Although we do have an accuracy roll on our helmet, so you do need some accuracy from your gear if you have decent life. So either from the helmet, from the gloves, from the amulet, technically, you can get accuracy on the amulets. You can get it on the shield. You can also get it on jewels. You can get like increased accuracy. So there's a lot of options for getting accuracy. But you got to make sure that you have more accuracy than life. And that goes for leveling too, because we are also going precise techniques while leveling. We rush it, in fact, from 1 to 12. So always make sure you have more accuracy than you do life. It's pretty easy once you get this wheel, but when you're going like 1 to 12 or 12 to 27, there'll be a point where you don't have this wheel and you'll need to run precision early on. So keep that in mind, because that will reduce your damage by a crap ton if you don't have precise techniques allocated, or if you do have this allocated and you don't have accuracy more than your HP. So make sure you always have that. You know, check the character sheet once in a while, because if you start equipping gear with a bunch of life on it, you might end up having too much life. So, which is a weird problem to have, but sadly it is a bit of an issue sometimes. But yeah, precision, even just level 1 or 2, usually takes care of that. So I didn't really have any issues when I was testing. And then you can always take precision out once you get these nodes. You don't need precision anymore. You just run anger and you're good. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's everything. You guys have any questions, drop it in the comments. I think this is what I'm going to do as a league start personally. I think it looks really good. I think it has a really good synergy with the mercs. And Smite's also just a pretty fun skill, because it just doesn't sound as bad as Dual Strike does as a whole. And it's also better range, which is nice, and more AoE clearance, which is also really nice. So actually, I just think it's better mechanically. It might have a little bit less damage, but because it double hits, which I didn't actually mention, but Smite does double hit. That's why there's 2 times Smite at the bottom here. All you got to do to get double hits is getting additional strike on a mastery, and then don't name lock on the enemy, just kind of target away from them, or just near them. So make sure you also have attacks don't move clicked on your skill. That's pretty much for every skill in the game, to be honest, but that's very important for this. And then just right click away from the enemy and it will double hit. So very, very easy to proc it. I don't know if you need to right click away from the enemy, but it's a safer bet. And then that's also why we use Ancestral Call early on, and why we're having this way to get the attack mastered early, because Smite is basically complete dog shit without having this attack mastery. So yeah, but that's why we get double hits. Very, very, very strong. And you can see here, 2 times Smite, level 37, we're doing like 700k damage. It's pretty insane, you know, and that's without like any craziness. Oh wait, we do have some craziness in here. Got to take this out. So 600k, still pretty damn good to say the least. You know, rage just doesn't matter, because you know, you put it at 40, 50, 60, it's all the same damage. It just calculates up to your max here. And yeah, it's pretty nuts. Obviously, I guess you could uncheck this stuff. You won't have this for bosses. But yeah, either way, I mean, you're still doing a ton of damage for no real reason. So yeah, really cool. Very good build. Trinity's easy to run with it, and Trinity's busted. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. So well, I know probably a lot of you guys are going to have questions on like, why not Slayer? And yeah, Slayer's really good. I pretty much plugged in the Slayer Ascendancy into my same skill tree, making a few small changes for accuracy, capping, and all that. And you can see a little more damage. And then the tankiness is similar. Actually, a little less Fizz max hit in average situations, I would say, because fortification becomes a lot less reliable. I put it at just 10 stacks because I think probably it'll be around 10 stacks. The main reason why I say that is because we're not attacking that fast. We're attacking at 5.6 attack rate. And the only thing we really have to give us fortification is this armor evasion chest, which melee hates have 6-7% chance to fortify. So pretty low chance. And yeah, you can't really rely on this being up all the time. So in fact, you know, even instead of like doing 10 out of 20, probably just uncheck it for being reasonable in most situations. When you need it, you probably won't have it, especially when you're bossing and all that. You don't really have time to attack constantly. It's really nice to have that fortification constantly on. Plus, you don't get to share fortification with your allies, because this thing lets you share it with your Merc, and that can maybe keep the Merc alive, whereas with Slayer, the Merc might be dead more often than not. So and that could be a ton of damage lost, ton of tankiness lost, ton of everything lost if your Merc is dead, while Champion might keep it up. So that's actually a potentially extremely big difference, and is probably my biggest reason why I want to go Champion, is for that reason. And you're really not losing much damage, right? You're losing 2 mil by going Champion. You do have to do the whole adrenaline shenanigans, which is a little annoying, but probably get used to it. You get a feel for it, right? It's not too bad. And, you know, his max hit is actually higher. Elemental max hit is very similar in reliable conditions. So, yeah, that's just my take on it. But I just want to give you guys that option just to show that, hey, you can go Slayer if you prefer Slayer. You get the Overleech, and Overleech is really good for recovery. So that's something we don't really have, is very much recovery. Then, yeah, just go Slayer. I mean, you can still play the same build that I've made here. So good luck, guys. Hope you enjoy, and peace.